Well, howdy and welcome to a bit of a flash stream. This one, I wasn't planning to do it, it's not my normal time, but I'm coming up to an interesting part now. I've been installing the bridge pin, so I thought I'd tell you about what I've done there and show off how well, not show off, you know what I mean, display flushing the caps that I put on the ends of the bridge pins. And well, hopefully there'll be a few people around to watch that. So let's get going. Let's move over to, oh, I see Lego Man's in. Hi there. Let's pop over to the bench and I'll get on with that. So I'll first explain what I've done with the bridge pin. Basically, the bridge pin looks like this, and that's a second one. Just so happens that I've got two the same size. The flying bridge is sitting down in there. You may actually notice I've carved my initials on there. So I've got this pin which reaches almost all the way through the cheeks. I think the other one's a little bit longer than that. And I decided to fit some plugs, and you can see one plug that I put in there and already flushed to the surface. Now I can already see there's a bit of a problem with one of the cameras. Nothing's happening on that camera. That's not good. Let's see if I can sort that one out. It's these early mornings. Cameras don't like it. Anyway, here we go. Let's get back to that. So, bridge installed there with the pin, like so, running through the bridge and running into both sides of the plane. And now there are various ways I could have attached that, and people were suggesting maybe I could tap the end of the pin and put a screw in there. Other ideas of putting a washer and peening the end of the pin over. I wanted to be able to get the pin out at some point or other, so screws would have been fine, but I don't like the look of them, and I just thought if I plugged a little thin wooden plug in there with the grain, which is also going to be, well, it's in U, so it's going to be a nice match to the wedge. So that's what I've done there, and I've done a similar thing on this side. Now, how did I actually make those? Let's see if I've got around the tool that I use for that. Just a plug cutter, actually. I can't see them on the bench, so basically it's just a tool with a few teeth in it. You drive it down into the piece of wood and then you slice off the plugs. Very easy. Come in nice accurate size, so you can then drill with a brad point bit, a nice clean hole, and then just basically a bit of glue and bang the plug in. Now, the big problem I always have with these is flushing them off and not damaging the surface that I'm flushing to. I don't know why that camera's packed in again. What a pain. Let's have a go. Start that up again. Oh, you noticed the feather on the back, did you? Is there a hand tool version of the plug cutter? That's a good point, actually. Damn, I've screwed up there because I've gone plugged, haven't I? Because I cut it with a mains drill. I suppose you could use it if you jig things up nicely. You could use it with a normal hand-driven drill, twist drill. Yeah, I'll have to try that out, see whether it works. Don't see why, if you didn't get enough speed up with it, that it wouldn't cut that way. But you'd probably want to jig the actual cutter, which is cylindrical. If you could jig that in a little hole above the material you're cutting into, I think you'd be able to do that by hand. So a bit of a fail from my point of view there. Didn't even occur to me when I did it. The big problem I usually have with these though, Flush cutting saws, excellent for cross cutting, but most of the plugs I do are with the grain. What I mean is the grain runs across the plug, so that means you're trying to do what should be a rip cut with a saw which is better profile for cross cutting, very thin saw which wants to follow the grain. So if the grain ducks down within the work, or if it drifts into the work, and when you're cutting it's going to try and pull the saw down, and then you mar the work that's all around it. So I've taken to putting a bit of paper down with a hole in it around the plug, cutting like so, and then I can see much sooner if I start cutting the paper rather than the surface that I'm trying to protect. And I also go from both sides. There we go. So no damage around it. Does mean that the plug is slightly raised now rather than totally flush. But then we just take a nice sharp chisel. Again, there can be a problem here if you get the grain direction wrong when you're paring this down to flush. You may find it wants to give you a bit of tear out. So slicing actions, always good. It feels rougher than it actually is, I guess. And ultimately I go to a scraper, and I could probably go to a scraper now, but I prefer paring away as much as I can. Because to use a scraper, there's a lot of thumb work, and my thumbs, as you know by now, because I'm always complaining about them, my thumbs hurt a lot when I'm doing any woodwork at the moment. So that's basically done. Scraper. And also getting rid of some mark out lines on here at the same time, so I'm scraping the whole side. And there we go. So that just caps off the bridge pin, both sides. It wasn't loose. It was a good fit, good snug fit in the hole. But yeah, it's nice to have it capped off. What I've also done since last time is just done a little bit more profiling work on the top of the wedge. I just noticed there's, for some reason, a bit of glue on the side of the wedge. Must have been between the glue bottle and the those plugs. So let's get rid of that. I'm not going overboard with this. I have scraped the surface of the wedge. I have slightly hollowed the back of it just to make sure it's really pushing down hard at the end of the iron. And I just profiled the front edge a little bit more like a snow plough. Then hopefully, that done, I can pop my iron back in. And a wedge. Set it by finger, which is always a dangerous thing to do. And then we'll try it again. And you've probably seen here a lot of shavings. I was doing a bit of work with it before I put the caps on, just to make sure everything was lined up nicely. Let's get that piece of ash back in. And then I shall come and see if there are any questions. Nearly lost it there. I think I probably need to just wedge that up because it's a curved surface under it. Yeah, that feels nice and solid. I did also finish off the shaping of the plane, so I've put some finger slots in there to take my fingers. I actually did it without my ring on because I thought that would make a weird shape if I had a recess for my ring. That fits on there nicely. I've got my thumb through here. That means I can control the plane, if you can see that. Control it just with one hand, which is sometimes difficult, but this is really comfortable to do that even though my thumb isn't great. The other end, I'm working on my palm, not having to grab hold of it with the thumb, so it really works for me. Probably wouldn't work for anyone else. So you can see it works. It still works, I should say. I'm not quite sure how deep a cut I can manage on it comfortably, but it's actually making reasonably quick work of this hard board. So that was just a bit too thick, I think. Let's get set up again. Yeah, that's asking too much of it. That's making quick work of flattening that surface off, so I'm really happy with that. Let's see whether any of you have any questions. May just use a block plane for short. Not sure. Was that for flushing off the plug, Doctor? Plane or pare the entire plug away. Yeah, I have planed in the past, but I've also sometimes got tear out of that and then had to either replace the plug or plane the whole surface down. So you did mention the feather on the back. I'll try and show that in a bit more detail. That's my normal, where are we? That might do. Let's put another camera on. Let's go to this one. Come on, focus. Too much zoom, I think. So yeah, that's the peacock feather which is my usual little motif that I laser cut into, or laser burn I should say, into the pieces I make these days. Finish wise, I'm going to be putting linseed oil on this, which I may well do before this evening. And this evening, if I do a live stream, it will be pretty much the same as this evening as I've done now, just showing off the finished plane, trying it out, and discussing what I'm going to be doing next in the live stream, which is something that I think I mentioned before Christmas, and I completely forgot about. I'd already started doing some CAD work on it because it's something I've never done before. I'll let you into a secret as long as you don't tell anyone. It's going to be making a window. So I did mention that before Christmas, I think it was. And I will be making some plans for a window, something I've never done before. Trying to make one and trying to show how I go through the thought process of making it, the research I've done to find out the information on how it's made, and then turning some pine and deal I think I've got in the workshop into a sample window. I mean, it's not going to be for a property or anything, it'll just be something to show on the bench. So hopefully that will be interesting to people. There will be a plane coming up again. The next plane I make will possibly be a smoother, although I've been challenged to make a mitre plane, so maybe I should move the mitre plane up the list a bit and get that over and done with. Yeah, it will be linseed oil. I think I probably will go ahead and do that now. Put a coat on before lunch. Come back later, wipe off, put another coat on. I do it that way. Some people I think just dunk their planes in a vat of linseed oil and leave them there for a while. I don't tend to like that. It seems to take such a long time to then dry off and be comfortable to use. So I just give a wipe on, leave for a while, wipe off, leave that to dry out, and then put another coat on and keep doing that. No, I haven't built an infill plane. Richard, new name I think in the chat there. No, I haven't. Something I'm doing at the moment is I'm restoring or renovating a Stanley number 3, which I've got behind me somewhere. Not restoring, definitely not, because you can tell by the paint on it. I've gone for a different colour there. The handles on this are pretty shot, and I've been considering sort of doing infill handles for this and replacing the frog with something of a bit of a higher angle, maybe a 55 or even a 60 degree frog on there as part of the infill. So that's still on the drawing board, but that's something I'll be doing. But also I'd like to make a metal bodied infill mitre plane. Never done that before, so that's going to be fun to do. Lego Man saying, have I ever built up a layer of oil finish? Yeah, that used to be, I used to do a lot of tongue oil finishes, and it would take up to about 2 months before I'd actually release a piece to somebody, and then I'd also either go back and do it in another 6 months or so, or tell them how to keep applying more coats of it over the months and years. It was lovely, really lovely finish. Tend to go for a lot of things these days for a more resilient finish. A lot of people like lacquer on things these days. and since I got the equipment to spray these the pieces I make, a lot of people are opting for lacquer, which has its advantages, but I do agree a lovely built-up oil finish is hard to beat. So 20 coats of oil or so, yeah, that certainly helps, but it does take an awful long time to do that. If I'm building for somebody else, then I'll often maybe get everything up to about probably six coats of oil, 6 layers of oil before it goes out the door, and then either, as I say, offer to go back and redo it several times, or give them the instructions so they can do it themselves. It's a very easy thing to do, especially once it's just topping up a lot of coats that are already on there. Well, that's probably all I've got for you this morning. It was just a flash one. I was trimming off the first plug there, and I just thought maybe a few people might like to see me do the second one and explain how the bridge pin went in. The next live stream, it may be this evening. My normal time is 9:30 GMT on a Wednesday, and also on a Monday at 15:15. Oh, what am I talking about? Wednesdays is normally at 9 PM GMT, and Mondays is normally at 3:15 PM. So I may well be on this evening. I'll see if I can get some more details about the next build, and if I've got some pictures of what I'm going to be doing, then that might be something I can show. So if I've got something useful to show this evening, I'll be on again this evening. If not, it'll be Monday. But lovely to see you all, and hopefully catch up with you soon. If you want to always know when I'm posting, if you subscribe to the channel and you tick the notifications icon to get all notifications, then whenever I do a stream, especially like this one which had very little notice, you will at least get a little buzz to tell you that I'm doing one. Hope to see you all in the future. Cheerio, folks.